I never ever would have predicted this, but my third favorite game of 2017 was The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. This actually isn't the first time the series has surprised me. About 10 years ago, I played through the original Legend of Zelda for the first time. Despite playing a ton of them over the years, I had never legitimately finished a Zelda game, which made it a bit of a shock when I found myself so captivated by this one. As antiquated as it was in so many ways, it was a weirdly tremendous break from everything that I had come to think of as Zelda. It had a sort of purity in its design that the series, if not the entire gaming industry, seemed to have left behind. It was more than just open-ended and non-linear. It trusted the player to make mistakes. It was unfaltering in how hard it would punish you for them, and yet that freedom to uncover the world at your leisure was core to the appeal. I thought back in 2007 how nice it would be if The Legend of Zelda had been more of a blueprint for what the series had become, but I didn't really expect it could ever go back there, and each subsequent game only strengthened that belief. Instead, Zelda only became more handholdy, more restrictive, and at least to my tastes, more boring. I respected 3D Zelda for what it was, but to me, these games just felt too much like busy work. And that's precisely why when Breath of the Wild was announced, I couldn't have cared less. Even as the release date approached, even as I read interviews that specifically called out the 8-bit original as a major inspiration, I was way more hyped to finally get my hands on the new piece of hardware I'd be playing it on than I was for the game itself. Yeah, I know how this goes. Link's gonna get up, get out of the cave, and then I'll be railroaded through a tutorial sequence for a few hours. Then I'll Whoa. This opening sequence on the Great Plateau is a tutorial, but it is one of the best I've ever seen. The things I needed to do were clear, but my path was left up to me. Even the way I achieved those goals was open-ended, and most surprisingly, I was weak, I was almost defenseless, and the game punished me for every little mistake, which meant that when I finally started getting the hang of these mechanics, even simple little tasks felt monumentally, beautifully triumphant. 1 hour in, I knew this was not just another Zelda game. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild captures the long-lost appeal of the very first Zelda and brilliantly, almost flawlessly, makes it magic again. It's polished to the point that it feels for all the world like this is what 3D Zelda has been for generations, like it's managed to iteratively improve on games that never even existed. Unless you go out of your way to make it so, it's unfortunately never quite as punishing as it was in those early hours on the plateau. And while I think the way your weapons break keeps things fresh, it would be really nice if there was maybe some kind of a vault you could go to, where you could buy or even customize equipment that you've already found. But my only significant criticism is that the Divine Beast dungeons all feel pretty samey. They're not bad, but they're weirdly segmented from the rest of the world, and I think the finale, where you approach and storm Hyrule Castle, in whatever way you choose, is a much better way to do it in a game like this. Hopefully, we'll see a more distinct, open-ended approach to dungeons in the sequel. Oh, and the rain. I've never hated rain so much. But at the end of the day, this stuff did very little to take away from how enraptured I was by this game for months on end. The way Breath of the Wild systems so wonderfully blend together means that it never stops being engaging. There's always another shrine to find, always another obstacle to overcome, another secret to suss out, another ecosystem to explore. There is always something else to do. And it means that Breath of the Wild is the stickiest, greatest open world game I've ever played. I've put well over 100 hours into it, and there's still so much I haven't seen. I can't say enough about how unexpectedly and wonderfully thrilled I am to finally see Zelda capture the potential I saw in that very first game. And while there were obviously a handful of titles that I liked more in 2017, Breath of the Wild was far and away the game that I played the most. Next time, the countdown continues with my second favorite game of the year, and one that in many ways is cut from the same cloth. Keep geeking.